In 1972, a film came that would revolutionize the face of American movies. The Godfather was not another gangster film. It was a revolution in narrative, visual language, and filmmaking ambition. Hollywood had produced formulaic crime films for decades, resorting to stereotypes and shallow moralizing. But Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece remade what a movie could be, deconstructing a crime epic into an operatic exploration of family, power, allegiance, and rot. It not only changed the gangster genre, but also the actual process of filmmaking, marketing, and remembrance. Still, the history of its making might be even more amazing than what the public witnessed on film. Behind the legendary images and indelible performances is a secret history of sabotage, death threats, mafia involvement, studio betrayal, near murders, and moments of serendipitous genius that shaped history. For those who think they know The Godfather, what's actually behind the curtain is a much more perilous, surprising, and unpredictable story. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. The initial and most direct fight was not with the mafia, but with Paramount Pictures itself, the same studio that had approved the movie. Francis Ford Coppola was not the studio's first option. He was new, fairly inexperienced, and lacked a reputation with a production of this size. Paramount executives did not merely distrust him, they actively wished to see him fail. Coppola himself has been known to remember that he felt destined for disaster from the start. They wanted a cheap gangster flick, he once bitterly complained, still shaken decades later. I wanted an American epic. The tension started before the first camera ever turned. The budget was specifically set indignantly low. $2 million for a sprawling period epic spanning decades, huge sets, costumes, and an ensemble cast. Producer Al Ruddy termed it impossible numbers designed to make me beg for scraps. From the outset, the executives decried Coppola's vision. His operatically dark aesthetic, with its moody lighting and underlit interiors, was greeted with scornful derision. Paramount's dominant head of production, Robert Evans, scoffed at Gordon Willis's lighting scheme. Too dark. Nobody will see anything. The casting battles were even more brutal. The studio insisted on bankable stars such as Robert Redford or Ryan O'Neal for the part of Michael Corleone. Coppola refused, though, declaring that a then-obscure stage actor named Al Pacino was the only option. Paramount executives scoffed. Al who? They said. Absolutely not. For Don Vito Corleone, the fight was even nastier. The studio branded Marlon Brando box office poison, too old, too heavy, too flaky. Coppola replied that Brando was the finest living actor. Paramount agreed begrudgingly on humiliating terms. Brando would screen test for the role, work for nothing up front, and personally sign $1 million bond against delays. As production started, the sabotage mounted. Assistant director Fred Roos remembered how the studio would call Coppola during vulnerable moments on location with phony emergency budget crises, knowingly send opposite orders to department heads, and plan impossible shooting schedules just to be sure things went wrong. They even maintained a list of possible substitute directors and made certain Coppola viewed it, circled in red. It was psychological warfare, Roos described. Editing battles were no less fierce. Paramount wanted a lean 90-minute B-picture. Coppola and editor Walter Murch responded with a sprawling 3-hour epic. The studio threatened to take the negatives away and recut the movie themselves. Coppola's survival tactic was brilliant. He quietly filmed 2 versions of many scenes, one to satisfy the studio's daily requests, and the other as his original vision for the final cut. By the time the shoot finished, Coppola was gaunt, exhausted, and sure that he would never direct again. To rub salt in the wound, Paramount actually placed trade advertisements for the movie without crediting him as director, as if to wipe his input from existence. But as Coppola wrestled with the studio suits, an even greater threat lurked beyond the studio gates. The actual mafia, the Italian-American Civil Rights League, under the control of mob leader Joseph Colombo, Sr., called for a boycott of the film, saying it stereotyped Italians. It was actually an implicit threat. Producer Al Ruddy was invited to a meeting at New York's Park Sheraton Hotel, notorious for its mob killings. In a room, 5 men explained the terms. Certain terms, mafia and Cosa Nostra, could never be used in the film. This was no request. Ruddy agreed, and the boycott miraculously vanished overnight. Soon after, real mob consultants appeared on set, correcting details of body language, dialogue, and even murder techniques. James Caan recalled being told exactly how a Don would hold his hands when issuing orders. Coppola remembered being approached after filming the horsehead scene and being told casually, "That's not how we do it." But it works for the film. The sinister inference was clear. They were talking from experience. The blurring between fiction and fact became more and more frightening. During the filming of Michael's restaurant assassination scene, a local quietly told Pacino, "You know, that actually happened just there across the street." Cast and crew members were sent anonymous pictures of themselves walking into their front doors or dropping off their children at school. No notes were included. None were necessary. More unsettling was the real-life bloodshed replicating the film. As Coppola shot the notorious baptism montage, several coordinated gang slayings took place in Brooklyn in similarly uncanny fashion. One real hit took place just 3 blocks from where the cast was filming. And in the final irony, Joseph Colombo himself, who had bullied the production into compliance, was assassinated in public as the film entered post-production, striking a mirror to the violence that they had just simulated on camera. "We weren't making fiction," Coppola would later confess. "We were dancing with the same powers we were portraying." The actors themselves were also changed in disturbing ways. Marlon Brando's performance as Vito Corleone was more than acting. With dental implants, padding on his face, and dyed locks, he transformed physically, but his transformation went deeper. On the set of The Godfather, Brando frequently stayed in character during breaks between takes. Crew members naturally began to treat him as a Don, even kissing his hand in respect. Al Pacino's transformation was psychological. A young, insecure stage actor, Pacino slowly became the cold, calculating Michael Corleone. "My walk changed, my voice dropped. I became more deadly," Pacino admitted. The tension caused him panic attacks and insomnia. James Caan, as hot-headed Sonny, said he internalized his character's anger, which resulted in real bar brawls and the breakdown of his marriage. During one notorious scene, Caan pummeled co-star Johnny Russo so brutally that he cracked his ribs and chipped his elbow. John Cazale's chilling portrayal of Fredo resulted from tapping into his own frailties. Even-bit players had to maintain the line between reality and fiction. Richard Castellano, who portrayed Clemenza, was addressed as a true-to-life mobster in Little Italy. Robert Duvall, playing Consigliere Tom Hagen, was even accosted by individuals looking for actual legal counsel. "We all left pieces of ourselves in those roles," Pacino would later say, "and we took pieces of them with us." Visually, the movie's strength originated in Gordon Willis's bold cinematography, developing a hidden language within each frame. The divisive darkness was not aesthetic excess, but intentional narrative. These people resided in moral shadows, their souls concealed. High-angle shots represented divine or familial judgment, and doorway frames moral boundaries. The orange motif presaged death, pairing in scenes prior to Vito's being shot when the horsehead is shown and dripping from his hands in his dying moments. Windows were frequently a symbol for duality, and characters were trapped between the family and outside reality. The notorious last scene, in which Kay sits in witness to a door closing between her and Michael, is one of cinema's most crushing visual metaphors. Several of the movie's most enduring moments were not scripted. Brando's cat, which he petted in the film's opening shot, wandered onto the set on its own. Brando instinctively picked it up, creating a macabre contrast between his tender motion and his violent words. James Caan improvised Sonny's agitated body language. Al Pacino's restaurant killing scene was remodeled with the noise of trains thudding in his head, a last-minute suggestion from Coppola, making him all the more a killer. "Leave the gun, take the cannoli," was also ad-libbed by Richard Castellano. Even Brando's suggestion of dying playing with his grandson, orange peel in a mouth, was an off-the-cuff stroke of brilliance. These on-the-spot accidents, conceived out of instinct and spontaneity, were made into cinematic immortality. When The Godfather opened in 1972, the world was transformed. It was a $246 million worldwide box office hit, the highest-grossing film ever made. Its success reoriented Hollywood's hierarchy, bringing into power a time when directors and not studio executives were the dominant creative powers. Coppola, who had been almost fired, was now a visionary. Pacino overnight became a star. Brando's career was resurrected, commanding record-breaking fees. The cultural impact was seismic. The film didn't just depict organized crime. It reframed it as a metaphor for American capitalism itself, where family loyalty masked ruthless pursuit of power. Lines like, "I'll make him an offer he can't refuse," entered everyday speech. And for Italian Americans, it transformed representation, moving beyond caricature to complexity. A half-century on, The Godfather remains arguably the greatest American film ever made, examined not just for its craftsmanship, but for the miraculous, perilous conditions under which it was created. Ultimately, its tale is about the very issues it acted out: loyalty, betrayal, power, survival. Coppola built his own family of collaborators, battled seemingly impossible odds, and risked everything to defend his vision. The executives who attempted to burn the movie were ironically rescued by it. And the mafia, whose darkness hung over production, watched their own existence immortalized forever. As Martin Scorsese once said, "Long after the corporations who own these studios are forgotten, The Godfather will still be watched, still be studied, still be felt. Not merely success, but immortality. A tale created through sabotage, fear, danger, and genius became a timelessness classic. A movie that the world could not refuse."